Yeah, so my name is David Tarus. I am a Kenyan. I live in Nairobi, Kenya. I joined McMaster Divinity College in 2013, for a PhD program in Christian theology. And my focus was systematic theology. I had a great time at MDC. So since 2019, I have been serving as executive director for a continental organization called Association for Christian Theological Education in Africa. This is an entity or an agency that supports theological education across the continent of Africa. Our main institutions are Bible schools, theological institutions, seminaries, and Christian universities with theology departments. So we do three things mainly. We do accreditation. We do support research. So we conduct research, but also support institutions in conducting research. So I have been invited to teach a course on theology of the person from an African perspective, or in other words, theological anthropology from an African perspective. So this is going to be a fully asynchronous course, and I am super excited about it, and I will say why in just a few minutes. But my intention in teaching this course is to introduce resources coming from Africa, theologies coming from the continent of Africa, and just ways of understanding theology, understanding the Bible from an African perspective. This is so critical because I think, we are all aware that the center of gravity of Christianity has shifted. It has shifted to the global south. We will see how Africans understand the Bible because we approach the text from different lenses. So we'll see, for example, that the world of the Bible is very close to the African world. When I read Leviticus, for example, it's very close to my own tradition back in my own community. I read about sacrificial laws. That's not very strange to me, because I see it all the time. I read about issues of injustice, the conflicts that I see in the Bible, and it resonates with me, because I have lived some of those experiences. I've seen the tensions, for example, on issues of land, where we have tension around land, tension around how women are treated culturally, and how they were perceived in the Bible. So there is that very close connection between the world of the Bible and the African world. So that would be one thing that probably will come out very clearly. And the second thing is even on the issues of the human person, how the human being is seen, whether scripturally, but also culturally. I will introduce an African concept called Ubuntu. An African Ubuntu means our perception of humanity. In the West, you talk about I think, therefore I am. In Africa, we say I belong. I am because I belong. I am because I exist in a community. So there is a very I think that's very different. And then, of course, the concept of community is very, very strong in Africa. And the other thing that I think will come out very clearly is the connection between the Christian faith and the lived realities, such, for example, issues to do with challenges of life, people, things like poverty, challenges to do with the environment. Those are not very remote. These are very close to how we read the scriptures. It's very, very practical oriented. One thing that really, when I saw this program from MDC, MA in Global Christianity, I was like, wow, this is good, because the the African scholars, the church in Africa, the church in Latin America, in Asia, has been reaching out to the Western world, to Canada, to US, to Europe, saying, you know what, we have read you guys. We have read Calvin, we have read Barth, we have read all these brilliant theologians coming from Canada, from Europe, from everywhere. But have you read us? Do you know what the rest of the world is saying about God, about Christ, about the church, about, eschatology? When will you make the non-Western world part of your subconscious theologizing? So I think our conversation during this course is also to say, you know what, guys, what are your blind spots? You've been thinking about human beings from a Western theological orientation. What have you been missing? And I will also be learning from my students as I read their posts and read their comments and read their questions. I will also draw from them. And I have drawn really from Western theology for a very long time. We had missionaries here teaching in Kenya. I did my master's in the US, did my PhD in Canada. I've been drinking from the cup of the Western theology for a long time. But I am also the church in the global world is reaching out to the church in Canada and saying, yes, I think you can also drink from our cup, try to see how we think about the human being, think about Christ and think about God and think about the church. And I guarantee you it's going to be refreshing. I'm trying to really connect the course to the reality right now, where we have Christianity has shifted to Asia, Latin America, and to Africa, but also Africa has moved to the West, and just literally, we have neighbors in Hamilton, where we used to live up the mountain. We had neighbors from everywhere, from Pakistan, from Iraq, from Congo. Every corner you will see an immigrant. You need to see somebody who is coming from a different culture. Those people do not abandon their beliefs at home. They bring those beliefs to Canada. And so understanding how they understand the humanity, understand doctrine, is important, even if you're not going to leave the borders of Canada and to go live in Africa and do mission or to do the work of God there. Even if you stayed at home, Africa has moved to Canada. And so that is so important, just so that you can become a better Christian, be a better neighbor, to people that in your neighborhood, you'll be able to understand their beliefs. So global Christianity, I think, is so critical. Not just, I don't think even MDC was thinking about missionaries, people that want to fly out to Africa or to Mexico to take the gospel there. I think it's a course really that suits everybody, even those who are going to stay in Hamilton, in Dundas, and they never leave their neighborhood. Africa is already there. Asia is already there. And the census, the Canadian census that was released just the other day, speaks of this reality already. We have immigrants just next door, and global Christianity, the course itself is so critical for all of us. So I would emphasize that as one of the reasons why people should sign up for this course.